Marcus Reed woke up every morning before the sun, not because he loved early hours, but because life had trained him that way. At 36, he was already used to moving quietly through the small two-bedroom apartment so he wouldn't wake his daughter Leela. The floorboards creaked near the kitchen, so he memorized which spots to step over. He brewed cheap coffee, packed a lunch that usually looked the same: rice, beans, leftover chicken, and checked the calendar on the fridge. It was always full of notes written in blue marker. Leela school project, rent due, parent-teacher meeting, extra shift. Marcus worked as a night security guard at a warehouse on the edge of the city, a job that didn't pay much but paid on time, which mattered more to him than anything else. During the day when he wasn't catching short naps, he picked up small repair jobs, fixing doors, painting fences, helping neighbors move furniture. People trusted him because he showed up when he said he would and never complained. Leela was 8 years old, curious, observant, and far smarter than Marcus liked to admit out loud. She noticed everything: the way her father rubbed his wrist when bills piled up, the way he paused before buying anything extra at the store, the way his smile softened when she talked about school. "Daddy," she once asked while tying her shoes, "are we poor?" Marcus crouched down, met her eyes, and said, "We're okay and we're together, that's rich enough for now." She nodded, as if storing the answer away for later. Mornings usually ended with them walking to school together. Leela liked to skip over sidewalk cracks, and Marcus pretended not to worry when she let go of his hand to race ahead. Their neighborhood was ordinary: rows of aging buildings, small corner shops, kids playing soccer in the street until someone yelled about cars. Marcus knew most people by name. Mrs. Alvarez downstairs always waved from her balcony. Mr. Henry across the hall borrowed tools and returned them cleaner than before. Life wasn't easy, but it was steady, and Marcus valued steady more than comfort. Being a single father wasn't something he planned, it was something that happened when Leela's mother left years ago, chasing a life that didn't include responsibility. Marcus didn't speak badly of her. He simply told Leela, "Some people leave, but love can stay." On weekends, Marcus took Leela to the local library or the park. He didn't have money for big trips or fancy toys, but he listened. When Leela talked, he really listened. That was his strength, that and his quiet sense of dignity. He never asked for help unless he truly needed it. Pride wasn't about refusing kindness, it was about knowing who you were even when life tested you. That sense of self followed him everywhere, including the community center where he volunteered once a week fixing broken chairs and lights. That's where he met Alina Brooks. Alina was 34, a community outreach coordinator who organized after-school programs and food drives. She had a calm voice, thoughtful eyes, and a habit of pushing her sleeves up when she concentrated. Their conversations started small: tools, schedules, kids, but slowly stretched into longer talks about life. Alina admired how Marcus spoke about Leela, not with bitterness or exhaustion, but with quiet pride. Marcus admired how Alina treated everyone the same, whether they were donors or people asking for help. They didn't rush anything. They were two adults with responsibilities, cautious hearts, and a mutual respect that grew naturally. Sometimes Alina stayed late after meetings and Marcus helped her lock up. Sometimes she brought extra snacks for Leela when she knew Marcus would be there with his daughter. Nothing felt forced, nothing felt rushed. And for the first time in a long while, Marcus felt something gentle settle into his life: hope without pressure. The problem didn't arrive all at once. It came quietly, layered over weeks, disguised as normal life. Marcus's work hours were cut unexpectedly when the warehouse changed contracts. His paycheck shrank, but the bills didn't. Rent stayed the same. School costs grew. Leela needed new shoes. Marcus started taking more repair jobs, working longer nights, sleeping less. He told himself it was temporary. He always did. But exhaustion has a way of making thoughts heavier, and pride can turn into silence if you're not careful. Lena noticed. She noticed the darker circles under Marcus's eyes, the way he sometimes stared into space after conversations, the way he laughed a second too late. One evening after a long community event, rain poured down suddenly, soaking the streets and flooding the bus stops. Alina offered Marcus a ride home. Halfway there, traffic stalled. The storm worsened. Alina lived closer than Marcus did, and she said gently, "You can stay at my place tonight, just until the rain eases. There's a sofa." Marcus hesitated, not because he didn't trust Alina, but because accepting help had always been complicated for him. Leela wasn't with him that night. She was staying with Mrs. Alvarez during his shift, but Marcus still felt the weight of example. What kind of man was he teaching his daughter to be? One who leaned too easily or one who stood firm? Alina sensed his hesitation and added, "It's just practical, no expectations." At her apartment, warm and modest, Alina offered him dry clothes and tea. They talked quietly about work, about Leela, about small things that didn't require emotional effort. Later, Alina pointed toward the living room and said, "You can take the sofa, I've got blankets." Marcus looked at the sofa, then at the floor, then back at Alina. He smiled, polite but firm. "Thank you," he said, "but I won't take the sofa." Alina blinked, surprised. "Oh, I didn't mean." "I know," Marcus said quickly. "It's not that, I don't want to blur lines. You've been kind to me. I don't want to confuse kindness with something else or make things complicated." His voice wasn't defensive. it was honest. Alina sat down across from him. Marcus, she said, sometimes accepting a place to rest doesn't mean giving up who you are. He nodded, but the conflict stayed. That night Marcus chose to sit at the small dining table until the rain eased, then left quietly, walking the last part home once the buses resumed. Alina watched from the window, confused and a little hurt, wondering why he pushed away something so simple. For Marcus, it wasn't simple. He'd spent years building a life where his choices were clear and his boundaries protected his child and himself. But as he walked home, soaked and tired, he wondered if he had mistaken strength for distance. The struggle wasn't just financial anymore, it was emotional. Could he allow support without losing his sense of self? Could he show Leela that accepting help didn't mean weakness? Over the next weeks, Marcus tried to fix everything the way he always did, by working harder. He took early morning shifts at a grocery warehouse unloading trucks, then went straight to his security job at night. He barely slept. Leela noticed. "Daddy," she said one afternoon while doing homework at the kitchen table, "you're forgetting things." He smiled weakly. "Just tired, kiddo," but she frowned, unconvinced. Alina gave him space, respecting his boundaries, but she didn't disappear. She checked in with simple messages. "Hope your day went okay. Tell Leela I saved her a book." Marcus appreciated it, even if he didn't always respond right away. One evening, after Leela fell asleep on the couch waiting for him, Marcus realized something had to change. He carried her to bed, sat on the edge, and listened to her breathing. He thought about the example he was setting, not just of independence but of isolation. The next day he did something difficult. He spoke to his supervisor and asked about additional training for a better position. He reached out to the community center to see if they needed more paid maintenance work. He even accepted Mrs. Alvarez's offer to watch Leela more often so he could rest between shifts. Each step felt small, but together they shifted something inside him. He was still responsible, still proud, but he was learning that effort didn't always mean doing everything alone. He met Alina again at the community center, working side by side fixing a broken shelf. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, just careful. Finally Marcus said, "About that night I wasn't rejecting you." Alina smiled softly. "I know, but I wondered what you were protecting." Marcus thought for a moment. "My daughter and maybe my fear of needing someone." Alina nodded. "Needing someone doesn't erase who you are, sometimes it shows who you are." That conversation didn't solve everything, but it opened a door. Marcus began to let Alina see more of his real life, not just the parts he was proud of. He talked about money stress, about exhaustion, about the quiet fear of failing his child. Alina didn't rush to fix it. She listened. And for Marcus, that was new, powerful, healing. The turning point came on a night when Marcus finally hit his limit. He collapsed from exhaustion during a late shift, not seriously hurt but shaken. The supervisor insisted he take a few days off. Marcus felt panic rise. Days off meant lost pay. He went home early, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the bills. Leela watched him silently, then walked over and placed her drawing on the table. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands. "That's us," she said. "You don't have to be everything alone." Later that evening, Alina knocked on the door. Mrs. Alvarez had called her, worried. Alina didn't lecture, she didn't push, she simply said, "I brought soup." They sat together, eating quietly. Leela chatted about school, about books, about how Alina should come to the park with them sometime. Marcus watched the scene unfold and felt something shift. This wasn't weakness, this was community, this was care. When Alina prepared to leave, Marcus stopped her. "About the sofa," he said gently. "Maybe I was wrong, not about the boundary but about what it meant." Alina smiled. "Boundaries are good, but rest is good too." Marcus laughed softly. "Next time I'll accept the sofa, or at least the tea." That moment changed everything, not because of romance but because of understanding. Marcus realized that refusing the sofa hadn't been about dignity, it had been about fear, and choosing differently didn't mean losing himself, it meant growing. Life didn't suddenly become easy, but it became lighter. Marcus secured a steadier maintenance role at the community center. The pay wasn't huge, but the hours were humane. He slept more, he smiled more. Leela's laughter returned to the apartment, louder and freer. Alina became a familiar presence, not a rescuer, not a solution, but a partner in the everyday moments. They cooked together, they talked, they disagreed sometimes, respectfully. One rainy evening months later, Marcus and Leela were at Alina's place after a community event. The storm rolled in unexpectedly. Alina smiled and said, "You can stay, sofa's ready." Marcus looked at Leela, who grinned. "Take the sofa, Daddy," she teased. Marcus laughed and nodded. "Yeah, I think I will." That night, as Marcus lay on the sofa listening to rain tap against the window, he felt peace. Not because his problems were gone, but because he no longer carried them alone. In the morning, they shared breakfast, simple and warm. Leela talked about school plans. Alina talked about future projects. Marcus listened, present and grounded. The lesson of Marcus's story wasn't about refusing a sofa or staying the night. It was about understanding the difference between strength and isolation. True strength isn't measured by how much you can carry alone, but by how wisely you choose to share the load. Accepting kindness doesn't erase dignity. Setting boundaries doesn't mean shutting people out. Life becomes richer when responsibility meets trust, when pride learns to rest, and when love, quiet, steady love, finds room to grow. Marcus taught his daughter that being strong means being honest, being open, and knowing when to sit down and rest. And in doing so, he changed everything, not just for himself, but for the small world built around him, one thoughtful choice at a time.